Just when I was starting to think that Cathy was an idiot, I discover that Jimmy is the actual idiot. Hey, Drew here, and Season 2, Episode 3 of City on a Hill, the episode entitled Is the Total Black Being Spoken, a reference to a poem. It was a very solid episode, and I'm just going to get it out of the way because I think it's going to be the thing that most people are thinking about. Jimmy is no longer with us, and I probably should have seen this coming, but I guess I just got distracted by the fact that I was watching the opening credits, and I noticed that Mark O'Brien, who plays Jimmy, is the fourth billed actor, and I sat there and thought, oh, that might be kind of the problem with this show, because instead of having time to develop Grace Campbell and Kelvin and Anton and a lot of the new characters, they're kind of stuck treating Mark and Cathy and the actors portraying them as series regulars. So they have to kind of give these characters stuff to do. So that just got me into thinking that Jimmy was more or less protected. But nope. And it kind of makes sense because I really didn't see them working towards any kind of reconciliation. I was actually getting a little bit tired of their conversations this episode. I mentioned thinking that Cathy was an idiot, and the reason for that was because every time they talked this episode, the conversation would go something along the lines of Jimmy asking for her to give him the money so that he could, pay for the product that he had accepted from Anton. And then Cathy says something along the lines of, Tommy went to prison and it's your fault. And it seems like he's dead. Side note. So then he would reply, I really need the money. They're going to kill me. And she'd be like, no. And she'd start to walk away. And then he'd be like, wait. If you want more product, then you need to pay me back. And, these conversations just got really, really repetitive. But they weren't moving the characters closer together. Like Jimmy would kind of tell her how sad he was and how upset he was that, the one person that he had that was close to him, he's betrayed. But he never really seemed to win her over at all. She never really seemed to become more sympathetic towards him. So it kind of made sense. But this last scene, when they go to meet, if I had been thinking about it, it really wasn't obvious setup for her to kill him. Her asking him to meet her and not saying that she had the money, just saying, meet me at this place, when it's an obvious place where, if you're looking for an isolated place to knock someone off, this would be the place to do it. And I still wasn't thinking that way when the conversation started, just because I'm dense, I guess. But I was sitting here thinking, man, this is a repetitive conversation. And I almost skipped ahead, but then they had this exchange where Jimmy said that, they're going to kill me if I don't pay them back. And then Cathy replies very, very coldly, no, Jimmy, they're not going to kill you. And at that moment, I had that gut check, like, oh, wait a second. And then, of course, she followed through and killed Jimmy. And it's going to be interesting to see the blowback from this and how it affects the rest of the season. What do you want to bet that Anton gets accused of killing Jimmy, seeing as Jimmy had been fronted product by him? I could easily see that being where the show goes. And it's an interesting and kind of gutsy decision because it will create this source of tension for Cathy as she's trying to, simultaneously move product and also to, evade DeCorsi as he tries to figure out who was responsible for the death of Jimmy. Now, I doubt that many people are that torn up about Jimmy's death. I do think it was a gut-wrenching moment because he is such a weak character, such a person that really doesn't, have a whole lot of ability to fend for himself. He's always been kind of at the mercy of the people around him. But at the same time, I do feel that, he was starting to come into his own as this person who, while, kind of not someone that I think anyone was really rooting for, he was someone that was kind of clever and was always kind of moving and shaking to try and end up on top. So I feel like I will miss his presence somewhat, but I'm kind of interested to see where they take it with Cathy's character. And I'm not, shedding any tears over him. I mean, he kind of knew when he made the decisions that he made in season 1 what the blowback could be. And honestly, the main surprise is that it was Cathy who finished him off and not someone else earlier. He really seems like the type of person that would have been knocked off by now. I also thought that the interaction this episode between Karen Shimizu and Guy Dan was interesting. Obviously, Karen is coming after DeCorsi based on information that Roar has fed her. And, of course, we see Roar this episode manipulating this person to bear false testimony about DeCorsi. And how this all is going to play out, I don't know. But it was interesting to see. I complained last episode that Shimizu just didn't seem like a likable character, that she was going after both DeCorsi and Roar, and I wondered if they might both turn on her. But it doesn't seem like that's the direction this was going to go, because she actually went and checked out DeCorsi's story about Roar, that he had left District Attorney Holly Gunn at the hospital. And it seems that she's come to the same conclusion that DeCorsi has. And it seems that this conversation with Guy Dan was what motivated her to go check it out, because she went to him and said, "Are you really going to let your lawyer's incompetence and pride, hang this department out to dry?" And he basically told her, look, he may be prideful, he's been a pain in my neck with that, but he is not incompetent, which led her to follow up on this. And I think this was a needful moment for this character, because I think we needed to see her going and actually looking for the truth rather than just going after DeCorsi on Roar's say-so. And also it shows that she's not going to put up with Roar's BS. She is going to be someone that wants to, know the truth and not to work with people just because it's convenient. Otherwise, this episode, I'm really enjoying Cameron Kierce's performance as Kelvin Campbell. I think that a lot of it can be boiled down to just him giving side eye while Anton makes bad decisions. And, you see Kelvin becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the way that his brother is going about his business. You kind of get the sense that he's only doing this because of Anton, that he might have chosen a different path. I thought the scene between him and his mother, Grace, played by Pernell Walker, I thought that this was an emotional scene that kind of showed that he is feeling this immense torment. And that was kind of the theme for his character throughout this episode, that he's feeling tormented by the fact that it might have been his bullet. He, one of 10 bullets, as DeCorsi tells him, that killed this young 11-year-old girl. And that he, is seemingly not really an eager participant in his brother Anton's life of crime. And he's watching Anton make these decisions, and it seems to me that he's kind of recognizing so that some of these decisions are not wise decisions, such as when he points out we shouldn't be going after the Jamaican at this point when we know that the cops are on high alert and they're watching for us. This was, him recognizing the dangers. And, at another point in this episode, other characters are pointing this out, and Anton's just like, nah, we got to go get him. And you also see that they are, him publicly beating another member for coming in short on his, quota, and, stripping him naked in public and all this stuff. And it's like, well, these are not smart decisions. These are not going to, you're not going to be able to get away with this kind of stuff forever. Sooner or later, you're going to get caught if you can't get wise. Otherwise, this episode, we see, moves and counter moves as DeCorsi and Roar continue to go after each other. I feel like neither of them really landed the sucker punch this episode, but it's interesting because DeCorsi is going after Roar for things that Roar has done, and Roar is having to intimidate a witness to make him lie to get DeCorsi into trouble. And the truth of the matter is I struggled to see how this witness is going to be able to pass muster when, people start questioning him and he really doesn't know enough information to really make this story stick. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think that innocence is always the best defense in a situation like this, and DeCorsi has always, comported himself with honor and with dignity, so hopefully that will protect him. But in the case of Roar, you see things kind of tightening for him. Interestingly, this episode, when his wife, Jenny, played by Jill Hennessy, found out that he had probably murdered the person that put their daughter in the condition she was in at the end of the first season, we see her having a surprising reaction in that she seems to be more interested in her husband, to appreciate him more, that he's kind of this protector that has gone out and punished the person that hurt their daughter. And it seems to make her, more enamored with him. So that was not necessarily how I expected that to go down, but, it kind of makes a degree of sense given their situation. Lastly, we see tension mounting in the home of DeCorsi and Siobhan, as they're having work pressures, political pressures. They're constantly being pushed against each other. Again, this episode, she shows up to keep him from interrogating Kelvin without a lawyer present. And you also just see that she is pregnant, and that was against his wishes, that he didn't feel like they were ready to have a child. I think it's interesting with her character because she has political ambitions, but she also wants to start a family. So it's like she's kind of pushing them in both directions at the same time. And it's really, putting a lot of pressure on DeCorsi. And I think the challenge for their marriage at this point is that, it is a challenging thing, I think, for anyone in a marriage when they feel like they're not contributing as much as the other person. And I feel it's important that Siobhan find ways to make him feel like he's not less of a person or less of a man than other men just because she's experiencing more career success than he is at this point. And it'll be interesting. This isn't my favorite plot line, but I do think it is a complex portrait of a marriage, and I think that both the actors are doing a fine job. So those are my thoughts. Overall, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was very, very well written and engaging throughout, and it seemed like just a building episode until the end when they had that big moment that I didn't see coming. And that was one of the few moments so far this season that I would describe as a water cooler moment, where everyone's like, oh. So I thought that was probably the moment this episode that really, really stood out. But let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of other shows, please consider subscribing. As always, thanks for watching.